Terror is a tough challenge for democracy, and democracy has to be capable of protecting itself. That's the primary contract between a government and its citizens, to protect themselves against being indiscriminately killed by terrorists. So I reject strongly the moral equivalence that you are trying to create between the origins of terror, the terrorists, and those who are deployed and active in order to avoiding the terrorists from reaching their objectives or precipitate more terror. I said down, yeah, it's true that I was involved personally. I disguised as a mechanic in white overall. I personally led a raid on a hijacked airplane with many hostages in it, and within 90 seconds we released the hostages by killing 2 of the terrorists, and unfortunately one of the passengers. I personally, disguised as a woman, I led a raid over arch terrorists at the heart of Beirut after the assassination or massacre of our athletes in the Munich Olympics. These guys were preparing the next round in terror, and we had the responsibility to block them. But 30 years later, as a Prime Minister of Israel, I sat down with Arafat, the man who basically sent them. And I sat down with President Clinton to propose to them the most far-reaching proposal how to put an end. Basically put an offer that will solve most of that they wanted as a basis for negotiation. We even did not try to dictate to them. Arafat rejected it. But when the issue of releasing prisoners came, and we said that we will not release prisoners with blood on their hands before a full agreement is achieved, he said, but what's the case? Barak also has blood on his hands. I told him I will never kind of apologize for this. The real difference is that you sent terrorists in order to kill ordinary citizens in buses in the center of the cities, in pizzerias, in the discotheques, even in Passover ceremonies, while we were always sent by a responsible democratic government to hit individuals who were preparing the next round of terror. We will not apologize for it, even if in very few cases, some other people were killed during such an operation. We never intended to cause any loss of life of a single individual which was not responsible for terror and preparing for the next round of terrorist attack. But basically, leadership exposes itself and expresses itself in times of crisis. And it is only where the deepest primal anxieties of human people as well as the masses are pushed to the surface that real leadership is needed. And by those times, be it in the battlefield or in the economic crisis, it's time where it's not easy to answer what is a leader. A leader is the one who can convince, in spite of all difficulties, to convince people to act not just against circumstantial odds, but against their very instincts, be it the political instinct or very survivability instincts. And it only happens when whole paradigms collapse in front of our eyes. It happened to me several times when I saw during the height of battles in the field how everything that everyone believed that should happen or could happen is broken, and the total destruction, physical and human, in terms of human life, is exploding around you, and only few can keep under those huge pressures, the kind of emotional detachment on one hand with an extremely alert sensitivity to objective feedback from reality that can enable him to keep the psychological stability of the leader as a human being, to be able to keep judging, to look out of the box and what's needed to be done, and never lose the core of leadership, which is not about contemplation, it's about action, it's about deeds, not about words. In leadership, ultimately what to really decide is character, beyond certain relatively not extremely high level of intelligence which is needed to understand the world. It's basically about character more than about IQ. It's about the nature of the individual, and in this regard, the human capacities, the psychological pressures, the capacity to operate alone. Leaders, I'm confident that Gordon remembers it for many moments, concrete moments, and Trichet remembers it for concrete moments, and the same applies to anyone here on the stage, probably many of you, that you end up being alone. You understand it, you hear many feedbacks, some of them are distorted consciously, some of them are distorted subconsciously, but you have a huge responsibility and you have to make decisions.